You're listening to the StudioPTBO Podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. And welcome to the StudioPTBO Podcast. We are back at it again with another guest, Neil Morden. Is it hotter here in Peterborough, Ontario, or is it hotter in Austin, Texas? You tell me.
We're neck and neck today.
I
just looked that up. So we're both around 30, 31 degrees today. And but Austin in general gets that every day, 90 to 100 degrees and steamy hot. But we'll take a little of Austin, Texas today. And we're super stoked to have a guest from Austin on the podcast today. Her name is Marika Flatt, and she is the founder of PR by the Book, which she established 18 years ago. Congrats.
Thanks. That sounds like a long time when you say it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say 2 decades, but you have been in a book publicist for over 2 decades. And that's amazing. And what sort of give our listeners and viewers a little bit of your backstory of how you got into book publishing. Did you grow up reading and have a passion for books? And then what made you meld your love and passion of books with PR?
Yes, I always love talking about that. So I was an avid reader as a kid, loved reading fiction of all types. And so when I was in high school, my plan was that I was going to get experience and get a TV job. So I actually, when I was a senior in high school, was able to work on a cable network near where I lived and produce and host the Teen Report and then the College Report. And I was hooked. I loved it. I did a lot of internships in college, and that was my path. Is I was planning to go into media. And as I got close to nearing graduation from college, was realizing that probably didn't want to start in a small market and work holidays and weekends, and didn't sound so good to me. And I had, in one of my TV internships, gotten to see the PR side of things, which I didn't really know much about at that point, and decided I really liked that part of it. And so I was at the right place at the right time, right after college graduation, and learned about a job that was in the Austin market as a book publicist. And it was just the perfect combination, for me to blend my love of books with media. And, that was like 23 years ago. So I stayed there for some time. And when that owner was selling that company, I knew it was time for me to go out on my own. And so that's when I launched PR by the Book.
That's awesome. Coming into this podcast, me and Neil were kind of chatting and, kind of doing a little bit of research. You've been known to be kind of a connector by nature. So I'm really curious to know specifically what that means, what that looks like for the clients that you work with. And, what are you doing in order to connect people that are writing books and that are, publishing? What does PR by the Book do? And for people that don't know, that might be listening to our podcast.
Right. So it's just a passion of mine, just personally and professionally, to connect people. And so that's probably one of the reasons why I fell into this job in the first place, is because the job of a book publicist is basically connecting the author with the media outlet. And so that's what we do day in and day out, is find the right media opportunity for that author. And, it is connecting all day, every day, really. And in my job now as the owner, I'm pitching media less for our clients and more so finding those opportunities to connect where an author, they come to me and they are in a certain stage and need a certain thing that maybe we don't provide. And so let's say they need a website, or they need someone to help them edit their book, or a book shepherd, or any one of those things. I'm always all about connecting them with who they need in their stage of the journey, even if it's not us, if we're not the right fit. But that's a big part of the Author to Influencer program that we launched back in January, is being able to find those connections for authors in their journey. We developed this 5-step success path that we see authors go through, which starts with preparation and ends with promotion. And, a lot of times they don't have the budget to hire a publicist, but they have a budget to hire other pieces in the puzzle that they might need. Those are shortcuts they can't take of, it's not recommended that you just decide to design your own book cover, for instance. So, or edit your own book. And so there's certain professionals that they really must have on their team, on their journey, even if they're planning on doing their own promotion.
Right.
And in my personal life, I can't turn it off. Like I can't turn off the connecting. Like I'm just always, everybody knows that that's something that I love. So I'm always thinking, oh, she needs to meet her, and they can help each other. And, oh, did you hear about that person that does that other thing? And so it's just constantly rolling through my head.
I love that. And any entrepreneur, like that's a huge asset. And Cody really became like that when he became a partner at our agency. I said, Cody, you got to get out there and network a lot. And that was a game changer for him locally. He's on the board of our Peterborough Chamber of Commerce, goes to a lot of events here. Now globally as well, he participates in a lot of programs. And what is it? It seems like you're a natural connector. But what has it meant for you as an entrepreneur and for your business and good PR to be that kind of person? Is it kind of like almost karma? Like it doesn't seem like you do things for ulterior motives, but almost altruistic, but it sort of comes around, doesn't it? When you connect people together, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned karma, the whole pay it forward thing is important. And I was listening to one of your other podcasts and you were talking about the importance of mentorship and the importance of, constantly educating ourselves. Like, with this podcast, people are able to do that. And I am a huge believer in continuing education. I listen to podcasts all the time. I mean, I'll go out and walk my dog and listen to podcasts for an hour or, in the kitchen, whatever. I mean, I'm constantly listening because we all are on a continuous journey. We never finish learning. And especially in this day and age, I mean, things change by the minute practically.
Yeah.
And especially now that we're in this new COVID timeframe where everybody's kind of using technology in different ways. And so I just really believe in, like I said, paying it forward. I mean, I look back on the early days of my career and I can see the puzzle pieces linking, for instance, that teen report and college report show that I mentioned at the top of the show, the executive producer for those programs, she's the one who, when I asked her, when I graduated, if you could just recommend one thing, what would it be? And her recommendation was to join this professional organization that had an Austin chapter. And I did. And that's how I met the person who told me about the job. And so, if that person hadn't gone out of their way, and this was, I was about to say y'all.
That's okay. Okay. You say y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
This was back before we all had, emails that we were on all day long. She actually picked up the phone and called me and said, hey, we met last night at that happy hour. You mentioned you were looking for this type of job, and I happen to have just heard about something. Here's the details. So she went out of her way, and she and I are still friends to this day, by the way. But she went out of her way to call me and give me that job lead. And, I just, another thing that I heard you all talking about in one of the previous podcasts was the importance of following up on leads or any kind of contact that you make. And I'm a huge believer in that too, because I don't wait for people to get back to me. And that's also another tenet of a really good publicist, I think, is that I'm constantly following up with people and I'm okay with that. I don't think of it as something that I'm trudging through or something that I get bitter about. I just understand that that's my nature. I'm I'm going to follow up with those people until I get that answer.
Love it.
And that's kind of what you have to do as a publicist.
I'm really interested in just like what you think goes into becoming an author, or, really making it even as an author, because I find that there's a lot of business owners out there that kind of may have potentially, like entrepreneurs that like have built successful businesses, that have thought about writing a book, and they're just unsure of like how about going to actually do the process. Like maybe you could take our audience through, what you think goes into making a successful author. Obviously, writing a book and discipline and all that stuff. But what do you think are the intangibles to a good writer?
Well, that's a good question. When I very first started, one of the publishers that hired us to publicize their books and ended up having multiple national bestsellers. He ran this very small publishing company and still does. And one day he said to me, Marika, everybody's got a book in their heart. And for most people, it should stay there. And it just made me laugh, because that's not what I thought he was going to say. I thought he was going to say something different. But it is true. I mean, a lot of people do have a book in their heart. I mean, I talk to people all the time who say, oh, I want to write a book, or I was thinking about this topic. And so it is true. A lot of people have that on the radar screen. And, I think that's another reason that the author to influencer accelerator fills such a need for people, because the first step is preparation. And that's kind of what I hear you asking me in this question is, what do you need to do before you're even at the stage of product, which for us, that's the third step on the success path. It's preparation, then platform building, which I'm about to tie that into this answer, and then product. And then after that is planning and promotion. So in terms of preparation, I will tell you, if you are looking for a publisher to help you in this day and age, the steps that you need to take before that's going to happen is finding an agent who's going to sell it to a publisher. And in order to do that now in this day and age, you absolutely have to have a large platform. So lucky for a lot of people, there are other options other than going the traditional publishing route. And, those are some things that we definitely explore in the Author to Influencer Accelerator. But, there's really three possible pathways nowadays: traditional publishing, hybrid publishing, and self-publishing. So in order to have a book hit the market, you're going to take one of those paths. And they all have their own benefits and disadvantages. Traditional publishing is really hard to break into these days. Very few, and it's so funny because sometimes I hear from authors who really just, hit it lucky, and they don't realize how lucky they are that they got a great agent, and therefore they're with a major publisher now. They don't know this world, so they kind of think, oh, well, yeah, I've got a good book. Of course, that would happen for me. And, it's really striking gold now to land an agent and land a traditional publisher. So having a platform is really, really, really important in this day and age. Having a following, that's what they're looking for right now. So that's traditional publishing. Hybrid publishing is where you're sharing some of the costs with your publisher. So you have some upfront costs, but what they are bringing to the table is oftentimes distribution, which is key. So getting your book out to the market, but also walking you through that process. I tell people, if you're going into self-publishing, it's almost like getting an advanced degree. What you have to learn and know to do it well now. There is just so much to learn. And, you take someone like you were talking about, the two of you, you're in business, you have jobs, you might have families, you have lives. And this is just another thing that you have to learn if you're going to self-publish. And it's a lot. So if you're hybrid publishing, then your publisher knows all that. They're going to walk you through all that. They're going to hold your hand. They're going to say, now, here's your ISBN. When you're self-publishing, you might be kind of like, how do I get an ISBN? What is that? Oh, it's on the back of the book. Every book has to have it. How do I go about doing that? So a lot of people get really overwhelmed when they're self-publishing because there's just so many steps, so many things to know.
I'm overwhelmed just hearing this answer about self-publishing. I want to be that one-hit wonder right away, Cody, or the hybrid model.
I'm that person being like, who the hell do I hire?
Yeah. What's interesting to me, I told you before we started the show, back in the day, I was a magazine editor in Toronto for years, and I used to get emails from PR by the book. But in those days, there wasn't a lot of competition in media. It was really pretty straightforward. There was, print newspapers, magazines, books, pretty much. Obviously, there's radio and television, but I mean, in that field, now there's like so many things competing for us on a daily basis on social media and, Netflix, generation, everything. So where do books fall into that now in your mind? Do they still have a place? Is it harder than ever to crack into it because of that? Because we live in a media saturated universe right now. Where do books fall into all this right now in your mind?
Well, May is Get Caught Reading Month. So we're hoping everybody's reading. And funny enough, June is audiobook month. And, I consume books both ways. Mm-hmm. I consume books actually 3 different ways, because physical books, ebooks from my iPad, and audiobooks. But I didn't get back into audiobooks until last spring. It was funny. I went a long time without using Audible or consuming books in that way, because I found myself so distracted while I was trying to listen to audiobooks. And I gave it another chance last spring and signed back onto Audible. And at any point in time, I've got an audiobook in process. I think reading is always going to be around because people need that as a form of therapy. Really, we need that escape. We need to be able to learn in that way, in terms of nonfiction. And so I think it's always going to be around. I mean, you can look at the numbers from this quarantine and how reading has gone up, because people, yes, you've still got your Netflix and you've still got your social media, but you don't have, that happy hour with friends or going to that kid's baseball game or, heading off for the weekend or whatever. So you have more time at your disposal. So in terms of the numbers and the data, yes, reading has definitely enjoyed a spike during this time. So, I think that, but absolutely, there is no doubt that it has more competition in this day and age. I'll tell you, even I was talking to my daughter about this recently, that I'm guilty of it too, because I'll go up to my little reading area in my room and I'll have my book next to me and my phone is also there. And, it's
number
like,
one.
Yeah, it's like it's like a magnet. Like you get pulled to your phone. Oh, I need to check that social media, or oh, I haven't gone and played those games on my phone, in several days, or maybe I need to check my email one more time tonight, and I find myself, and I just have to say, forget it, stop it, like pick up your book and start reading. And so I absolutely understand that distraction, and it's a very real thing, but I don't think books are ever going away. I think, we just...
I agree. And like for Cody, it's been a game changer for him over the last year. Maybe Cody, you can quickly walk us through that, because you weren't a reader. And then
it's funny you say that, because I was going to hop in here and say this, like, it's very evident that success leaves clues. And it's very evident, if you do the research, that the average CEO reads 52 books a year. So it's something really interesting. Like, again, like Neil said to me last year, I've absorbed over the last couple of years podcast and stuff like that. But like reading, I find, unlocks this different like critical thinking inside of your head, like when you actually sit down, you think, okay, I'm going to read this book for the purpose of this, or the purpose of learning about this, or learning about business or sales or marketing. It's been a game changer for us. I can genuinely say that, like shifting that perspective of like, I'm going to sit down and read books on sales, marketing, personal development, guys like Brendan Burchard. What I'm curious about, Marika, is I've seen different approaches to people writing books. Like different coaches will create a book and they will use it as like guys like Russell Brunson, for example. He will create a book and he'll use it as a marketing tool in order to kind of build a list. So I'm curious to know kind of the difference between a lot of what you're doing in regards to PR by the book, to actually use the book as a PR method in order to kind of, strengthen, I guess, the platform, versus using it as a tool to generate an email list or a tech subscriber list. I'm curious to know the difference between what you're doing and what we see other people in the marketplace doing.
Well, it really comes down to credentialing the author. So, when we're getting the author exposure in media, that is kind of that third-party endorsement to credential them in their work. So an author could get out there and they can hawk their book on their website and they can give away free chapters to build their email list or whatever they want to do. But, when they're heard on a podcast, for instance, because I say, podcasts are kind of like the golden child of media these days. Sure. Go back.
Look at Joe Rogan, $100 million for Spotify.
Oh,
Crazy.
I mean, it is amazing. I mean, most people can say what their top podcasts are that they listen to. Mm-hmm. And it's a massive vehicle for moving books. So, I think that back in the day, we used to say, there was a time when we say blogs are the golden child. And now it's definitely podcasts. So it's that third-party endorsement. It's credentialing them. It's letting them have a vehicle to tell their story in a new way, because they can only tell it one way. It's kind of one-dimensional when they're telling it off their website or, selling to their email list or whatever it might be. But once they get exposed in the media, then it's a whole new story that they can tell. And it's a whole new audience that they're reaching. So, that's for PR by the book. I mean, we're looking to build their brand, increase their name recognition through that media exposure that they're getting on a daily basis. And it's print, what's left of it, online and digital broadcast, which is radio and television. So, that's where we focus our time, those types of media. And we do get involved when the author needs us to, in terms of their social media, maybe consulting on their blog, those types of avenues. But we really want to focus our time on the types of media that I mentioned, so we can get them those opportunities that they don't have through their own network.
Totally. So what I'm curious about there with branding, and Cody and I are obsessed with branding and brand building. Has that changed in your mind in terms of when you are helping an author? Do you really look at their personality too, in terms of, wow, this person is going to be able to crush it on CNN or on this radio interview with a soundbite or on a Instagram platform or on that TikTok? Like, has that become more important than ever to you? Or is the writing really still the most important thing? Or do you look at the whole package more than ever now? Just curious on your thoughts on that.
It's definitely the whole package, but the thing is that it's the author is what is going to sell, because books are a dime a dozen. So the media outlet isn't going to care that the person is an author or has a book necessarily. They want to know, what can this author bring to the table for my audience?
Yeah.
How can they inform, educate, entertain, inspire, all of those things? That's what they're looking for. So it's so much more about the personality than it is about the content of their book, because we're selling the personality, in hopes that once they get on that media outlet, they'll sell their book through what they say. but we're really selling who the person is, who the interview is.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really always been the case, or has it become even more important than ever now in the social media era? Or from your point, good PR is the person, is the substance of the person has always been equally important to you?
You know, I probably didn't realize that when I very first started book publicity. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that I had to figure out as a publicist, that if I was going to rise above the noise, because there's a lot of publicists out there pitching the same people day to day to day. And of course, we know now that, in terms of media, certain sectors have diminished, like print, while others have gotten larger, such as podcasts. There's more podcasts. So in terms of sheer numbers, I don't know what the difference is in terms of numbers when I first started, 20 years ago. But I think it's something that you just have to develop in terms of your pitching expertise, to understand that it's not about me. Mm-hmm. It's not about the author. It's really about the media outlet's audience. It's like, what are we doing for them? Help me help you.
Yeah, totally. And it's contextualized probably. Your pitches, seems like with your experience, you go very micro in terms of who you're pitching. It's not like a blanket thing. Right. Mm-hmm. Being a magazine editor, I used to get hundreds of emails a day, and I knew when it was super generic, they're just throwing it out there. It's throwing shit at the wall. And whether it's really specific and tailored, I feel like yours are more custom to the book and the subject expertise and the person, right? Which mm-hmm. really helps from the receiver's end. If I'm in the media, I'm like, is that true, that you have a really tailored approach, thoughtful approach, contextualized approach as much as possible?
Yes, because now you have to, because 15 years ago, sending out a blast email did work.
Yeah.
People just weren't getting as many emails. And so that did work. That approach was successful. But in this day and age, it's not, because I'm also on the media side of things. My husband and I run Texas Lifestyle Magazine also. Awesome. As another separate business. And so I have a separate email address where I'm getting bombarded.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And a lot of them are still blast emailing. The funny thing is that I think that I am better as a journalist and better as a publicist, because I stand on both sides of that fence. So I'm very empathetic to what the other one is doing.
It's going through, yeah.
Multiple personalities. But, I know as a publicist, I know how the journalist is overworked, probably. And I know that their inbox is mm-hmm. crazy deep. And as a journalist, I know how hard it is to get the PR attention. And so, I try to be a good steward of their time as well. And I actually do open up almost all of my emails. Whereas a lot of journalists will just look at the headline or the subject line and, delete. And we could talk about that at a whole different show about subject lines. Yeah. But, I do try to give them the benefit of the doubt and actually open up the email, because I know what it's like on the other side of it.
Yeah. I'm really curious. We have a lot of small business owners, a lot of medium-sized business owners that could probably benefit from even local PR. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have specifically for a small to medium-sized business owner? Maybe we can try to contextualize this to, especially because we're live inside the StudioPTBO Marketing Hacks group, in order to kind of pitch a publicist or pitch somebody on essentially giving them an opportunity to have an article in a specific, either whether it be a magazine, whether it be on a media platform. What advice would you have for a small to medium-sized business looking to pitch a publicist or pitch a media company?
So the media exposure is going to benefit everyone, and absolutely every business can benefit from good PR. And we grappled with the name of the Author to Influencer Accelerator because we wanted to have a niche, because we've always had a niche with PR by the book. But at the same time, that program is a do-it-yourself for even just a business owner who doesn't have a book. So we also tell people, don't be afraid to start local, in terms of the authors that we work with. Sometimes, we have different categories of authors that we work with at PR by the Book. And if you think of them as kind of, A, B, and C level, if they're at the B or C level, then they might need to start local, regionally, with their messaging. Because first and foremost, for instance, if someone comes to us and says, my goal or one of my wish list media outlets is just, let's say, Good Morning America. So I know you're in Canada, so breakfast TV, let's just say.
Good. That's good. You know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if that's their initial wish, it's kind of like, we have to tell them we're not going to be able to land that interview without a clip to show them. Because most of the time, if we send them a pitch that they like, they'll say, do you have a clip? And so that's another reason to start local, is that you can kind of use that as your training ground sometimes. Excuse me, to get that clip on a smaller level, to be able to show it to someone at a larger level. So in terms of, I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent from your original question, but yes, it's important for business owners to get that credentialing from media, because we're all impressed by that. When we go to somebody's website, and they have a press page or a media page, we're all impressed by that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, being in media in Toronto for 20 years, I worked my way up through that system. And it was so important. If they were coming interviewing me, they knew that I'd be able to crush it with a soundbite right away, in and out.
Yep.
Live television or entertainment, ET Canada used to come in, and I would be able to deliver a soundbite in 20 seconds, in and out. So they need to know that. But I didn't get there right away. I had to work my way up through, community television and radio. And it's just repetition, like you say, Marika. It's repetition, and you need that material. You need those sound bites to show them that you can not go on TV and be deer in a headlight and freeze and stumble, right? It's great advice that you're giving. Start local. And that's how we started our business, right, Cody? Yeah. It's like, it's a framework of life. Like, you don't always go, you're not going to hit your North Star right away. It's very rare. Yeah.
Right. Repetition. Marika, really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate your insight and just the ability to chat about PR. If somebody were to want to reach out to you, hire your company, where is the best place that they can reach you?
So prbythebook.com is our main site. And if they're looking for the do-it-yourself type of option, that's the authortoinfluencer.com.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate the opportunity to sit down, chat, and I really feel like there was a ton of value in this. If you're looking in regards to hiring somebody to write a book, like, hey, you know where to go. So thank you, Marika. Thank you, Neil, and thanks, you Marika, for tuning in to the Studio PTBO podcast. And we'll see you soon.